Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon or good night, depending on where in the world you are connecting from. Thanks for being with us once again. We had the first round of our literary reading last Friday, and it was very emotional and it was very powerful. We had a great time, and we're looking forward to have a sensational afternoon today also with more poetry reading and translations. I want to welcome all the writers, creators, translators, students, and professors who have put so much effort, much time, and talent to show the power of literature and the arts. It's an honor and a pleasure to share this afternoon with all of you. Welcome and thanks again. I also want to thank to all my colleagues in the Department of Modern Languages and Literatures for the dedication that they put every day to bring new languages and cultures to our students, to open their eyes and to guide them to be global citizens, aware of the differences and richness that are around them and around us. I want to especially thank Daisuke Fujimoto because he has created such a beautiful website for this event, and also to Elena Fernandez, who has been working with me for months to put all these little details together to make this event happen. And I also want to thank all the other people and collaborators who have put so much effort into making this event a reality. Jay Jeller from the Department of History, Gilad Silberman, Director of the Jewish Lifelong Learning Program, Randy Blackford from the Office of Multicultural Affairs, and Francisca Garcia Cobian-Richner from Alianza Latina Latin Alliance. Once again, thank you so much for being so helpful to make this event a reality. And as I said last week, this festival intends to be a celebration of diversity, inclusion, and humanity, and a way of showing our capacity of resilience in the face of this current pandemic. I only hope that you can enjoy this afternoon as much as I did last week, and I'm hoping to do this Friday today. Thanks again for being here today in this part of the festival. And now, without further ado, poet and professor Cristian Gomez Olivares will start introducing our guest writers, professors, and students. Welcome and enjoy this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Damaris. Thanks everybody for being here. And without any more delays, we are going to start our readings of this afternoon. And we are going to start with Tiziana Mattioli. Tiziana Mattioli, a researcher and professor of Italian literature and Dante criticism with the University of Urbino Carlo Bo in the Marches region of Italy. Her focus has been 16th and 17th century Italian literature, and also 20th century literature with particular focus on artists, writers in dialects, and writers for the theater. Tiziana is going to be reading from Dante, and the English translations from Henry Longfellow will be read by Denise Caterinacci. Tiziana, please go ahead. And thank you for being here.
Sì, per rimanere nel tema, vi leggo quello che nel 1933 il poeta Osip Mandelstam dice dell'inferno. Si sbaglia a pensare l'inferno come qualcosa che possiede una volumetria, come una aggregazione di enormi circhi equestri, deserti dalle sabbie ardenti, fetide paludi, capitali babeliche e moschee arroventate. L'inferno in sé non racchiude nulla ed è privo di volume, allo stesso modo in cui ne sono prive una epidemia, una pestilenza, allo stesso modo in cui qualsiasi contagio semplicemente si diffonde pur non essendo dotato di spazialità. E ora dal quinto canto dell'Inferno di Dante Alighieri. Poscia ch'io ebbi il mio dottore udito nomar le donne antiche e i cavalieri, pietà mi giunse e fui quasi smarrito. E cominciai, poeta, volentieri parlerei a quei due che insieme vanno e paion sì al vento esser leggeri. Ed egli a me, vedrai, quando saranno più presso a noi, e tu allora li priega per quello amor che ei mena, ed ei verranno. Sì, tosto, come il vento a noi li piega, mossi la voce. O anime affannate, venite a noi parlar, s'altri non lo niega. Quali colombe dal disio chiamate, con l'ali alzate e ferme al dolce nido, vegnon per l'aere dal voler portate, cotali uscir della schiera ove è dido, a noi venendo per l'aere maligno, sì forte fu l'affettuoso grido. O animal grazioso e benigno, che visitando vai per l'aere perso, noi che tignemmo il mondo di sanguigno. Se fosse amico il Re dell'universo, noi pregheremmo lui della tua pace, poiché hai pietà del nostro mal perverso. Di quel che udire e che parlar vi piace, noi udiremo e parleremo a voi, mentre che il vento, come fa, ci tace. Siede la terra dove nata fui, sulla marina dove il Po discende per aver pace coi seguaci sui. Amor, ch'al cor gentil ratto s'apprende, prese costui della bella persona che mi fu tolta, e il modo ancor m'offende. Amor, che a nullo amato amar perdona, mi prese del costui piacer sì forte, che come vedi ancor non m'abbandona. Amor condusse noi ad una morte, Caina attende chi a vita ci spense. Queste parole da lor ci fuor porte. Quando io intesi quell'anime offense, chinai il viso e tanto il tenni basso, finché il poeta mi disse: che pense? Quando risposi cominciai: oh lasso, quanti dolci pensier, quanto disio menò costoro al doloroso passo. Poi mi rivolsi a loro e parlai io e cominciai: Francesca, i tuoi martiri a lagrimar mi fanno tristo e pio, ma dimmi, al tempo di dolci sospiri, a che e come concedette amore che conosceste i dubbiosi disiri? E quella a me nessun maggior dolore che ricordarsi del tempo felice nella miseria, e ciò sa il tuo dottore, ma sa conoscere la prima radice del nostro amor. Tu hai cotanto affetto, dirò, come colui che piange e dice. Noi leggiavamo un giorno per diletto di lancialotto, come amor lo strinse, soli eravamo e senza alcun sospetto. Per più fiate gli occhi ci sospinse quella lettura e scolorocci il viso, ma solo un punto fu quel che ci vinse. Quando leggemmo il disiato riso esser basciato da cotanto amante, questi che mai da me non fia diviso, la bocca mi basciò tutto tremante. Galeotto fu il libro e chi lo scrisse. Quel giorno più non vi leggemmo avante, mentre che l'uno spirito questo disse, l'altro piangea, sì che di pietade io venni in men, così com'io morisse, e caddi come corpo morto cade.
Thank you very much, Tiziana.
Prego.
And now we are going to have the translation read by Denise Caterinacci.
This translation was the first into American English by the American poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow in 1867. And Longfellow and Dante both share a universal outlook for humanity versus attention to small detail. A quote from Longfellow that I thought was rather appropriate for today, for our readings in general. Let us then be up and doing with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. And beginning at verse 70. After that, I had listened to my teacher, naming the dames of eld and cavaliers. Pity prevailed, and I was nigh bewildered. And I began, O poet, willingly speak would I to those two who go together, and seem upon the wind to be so light, and he to me, thou'lt mark, when they shall be nearer to us, and then do thou implore them by love, which leadeth them, and they will come. Soon as the wind in our direction sways them, my voice uplift I. O ye weary souls, come speak to us, if no one interdicts it. As turtle doves, called onward by desire, with open and steady wings to the sweet nest, fly through the air by their volition borne. So came they from the band where Dido is, approaching us athwart the air malign. So strong was the affectionate appeal. O living creature, gracious and benignant, who, visiting, goest through the purple air, us, who have stained the world incarnadine. If were the King of the universe our friend, we would pray unto him to give thee peace, since thou hast pity on our woe perverse. of what it pleases thee to hear and speak. That will we hear, and we will speak to you, while silent is the wind, as it is now. Sitteth the city wherein I was born, upon the seashore where the Po descends, to rest in peace with all his retinue. Love, that on gentle heart doth swiftly seize, seized this man for the person beautiful that was ta'en from me, and still the mode offends me. Love, that exempts no one beloved from loving, seized me with pleasure of this man so strongly that, as thou seest, it doth not yet desert me. Love has conducted us unto one death. Cana waiteth him who quenched our life. These words were borne along from them to us. As soon as I had heard those souls tormented, I bowed my face and so long held it down until the poet said to me, "What thinkest?" When I made answer, I began, "Alas, how many pleasant thoughts, how much desire conducted these unto the dolorous pass." Then unto them I turned me, and I spake, and I began, "Thine agonies, Francesca, sad and compassionate to weeping make me. But tell me, at the time of those sweet sighs, by what and in what manner love conceded, that you should know your dubious desires?" And she to me, "There is no greater sorrow than to be mindful of the happy time in misery, and that thy teacher knows. But if to recognize the earliest root of love in us thou hast so great desire, I will do even as he who weeps and speaks. One day we reading were for our delight of Lancelot, how love did him enthrall. Alone we were, and without any fear. Full many a time our eyes together drew that reading, and drove the color from our faces. But one point only was it that o'ercame us, when, as we read of the much longed for smile being by such a noble lover kissed, this one, who ne'er from me shall be divided, kissed me upon the mouth, all palpitating. Galeotto was the book, and he who wrote it. That day, no farther did we read therein. And all the while one spirit uttered this, the other one did weep so that, for pity, I swooned away as if I had been dying, and fell, even as a dead body falls.
Thank you very much, Denise.
Thank you.
And we are now gonna be with Salman Masala. Salman Masala was born in 1953 in Al-Maghar, an Arab town in the Galilee, and has lived in Jerusalem since 1972. He studied at the Hebrew University and holds a PhD degree in classic Arabic literature, for which he wrote a thesis on mythological aspects of classical Arabic poetry. He taught Arabic language and literature at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and served as co-editor of the Concordance of Early Arabic Poetry. He writes in both Arabic and Hebrew and publishes translations into both languages. He has published 8 volumes of poetry, and some of his Arabic and Hebrew poems have been performed to music and recorded by leading Israeli and Palestinian musicians. For his book, Ehad Mikan, he was awarded the President's Prize for Hebrew Poetry. And now, Salman Masala is going to be reading in Arabic, and later on, Fabiana Irigoyen is going to be reading the translations into English. Without further ado, Salman Masala, with you.
Thank you for having me today. This evening here in the Middle East, it's afternoon at your place. I will start reading the Arabic poems. I will start with the poem, القصيدة. خذوا من البحر أسماكه، أعيدوا الغيوم إلى النهر، ارفعوا عن لم الطفل حمل النساء الحوامل، فروع الأسى وارفة والحكايا شجون مرتها نهود الأرامل. إذا ارتحل الأنبياء فلا تحزنوا للفقيدة، ولا لا تقولوا بأن الرجا في القصيدة.
Now, Fabiana is going to be reading the translation.
The poem, empty the sea of its fish, bring health back to the river. Wipe from the infant's lips the weight of pregnant women. The branches of grief shade all. The legends are sorrows. Milk from widow's breast. When prophets depart, don't report the loss, nor say that hope hides in the poem.
And the second poem, interpretation, تأويلات. العيون التي لا تذرف الدم لا ترى الظلام. الأيدي التي لا تشير إلى الأفق لا تعرف رسم البحر. الأقدام التي لا تخطو في الطرق تغور في التراب. العين التي لا تغمض لا تفتح الباب للتأويلات. اليد التي لا تمتد للعابرين لا تفضحهم. القدم التي لا تعثر لا تعرف درب العودة. الأشجار التي لا تثمر طوعا. الناس الذين لا ينسون لا يتذكرون شيئا. البيوت التي لا تطفئ النور مهجورة بالتكئيد. الباب الذي لا يغلق لا يشق الطريق للسفر. البيت الذي لا اسم له لا يستقبل الضيوف. الإنسان الذي لا يتكلم لا يعرف كيف يخفي سره. الولد النجيب طريد في حلم مطروح. الرجل الغريب وحيد في سجن الروح. البلد القريب بعيد بعد الألم عن جرح مفتوح.
Interpretations. Eyes that don't shed a tear do not see the dark. Hands that don't point into the horizon cannot draw the sea. Feet that don't take a step sink into the earth. Eyes that don't shut open no gate to interpretations. A hand not extended to pass by doesn't discover their naked souls. A foot that don't stumble doesn't know the way back. Trees that don't give fruit do that of their own volition. People who don't forget remember nothing at all. Houses that don't shut the lights are sure to be abandoned. A door that doesn't close, doesn't pave the way to a journey.
Thank you very much, Fabiana. Thank you very much, Salman. I need to add that the poem translated into Arabic was translated by Vivian Eden and the poet himself, Salman Farsala. And now we are going to jump from the Middle East into Spain, because we're going to have now Paz Garcia. Paz Garcia was born in France from Spanish migrant parents, but at the age of 3, she arrived into Asturias in the north of Spain, where she resides. There, she learned her native tongue, Asturian. She has an adjunct position at the linguistic project of Centro Universidad Internacional of La Rioja at Spain, and she has more than 20 years of teaching experience in high school. She holds degrees in Hispanic philology, literature, and Spanish language, a master's degree in didactics of language and literature, and a specialist in Asturian philology from the University of Oviedo. She has recently completed studies in educational coaching and emotional intelligence. She is a poet and researcher. Without any further ado, we are going to be hearing and listening to Paz Garcia. Paz, por favor. Paz, you're mute. Paz.
Paz, no te oímos.
Sí.
Tranquila.
Gracias por el brinde. Hoy en Asturias celébrase el Día de las Letras Asturianes y es para mí un honor hablar en asturiano para vos. La serie de poemas que voy a recitar nacen de la hambre. Hambre por la pérdida de los seres amados. A través de la conexión con la naturaleza, nacen los haikus de invierno y primavera que ayuden a que güey, aquí y ahora, candela, esnale y torne a la vida. Translation.
It is by coincidence that today, in Asturias, Spain, we are celebrating the big Día de las Letras Asturianes, which is the Asturian Language Day for Literature and Language. And so it is a great honor to speak in Asturian for you. The series of poems I will be reading are born from the Sambre. Sambre, a word that means sorrow for the loss of the loved ones. Besides, the series of haiku I will also read are born from the connection between self and nature. The healing haiku of winter and spring that today, here and now, help candela fly and return to life.
Espello. Dime, paz, ¿por qué si les yárimes suben sientes-te vencer? Dime, ¿por qué llores una y otra vez? Dime si a la vuelta vas a florecer. Dime, ¿qué te pasa que quisieres morrer? Dime, ¿quién te quiere? Dime, Sambre, ¿quién es?
Mirror. Do tell me, path, why? If your tears are back, you're torn apart. Tell me why you cry. again and again. Tell me that you'll be in bloom once you return. Tell me what the matter is, that you would like yourself dead. Tell me who loves you. Tell me deep sorrow, who are you?
Y otra vuelta, clisada, quise morrer para non estar viva, para non sentir, para non saber, para non dicir, para non facer. Por non topar los huellos de mi madre, incrédulos, clisaos y ciegos, que quiere vivir en sin saber, digna, haciéndolo nada. Y así curiar a la nena para que viva, para que no muera. Prove madre, prove nena.
Deep sorrow. And I, absorbed once again, wanted to die, not to be alive, not to feel, not to know, not to say, not to do, not to meet my mother's eyes, staring, skeptical and blind. She wants to live unaware, yet dignified, pretending that nothing happens, and thus take care of her child so that she lives on, so that she doesn't die. Poor mother, poor child.
Thank you so much to both Danielle Garcia Granda and Paz Garcia. We suffer here a little bit of the translators invisibility, but we're going to correct that right away. Danielle Garcia Granda from La Pola in Asturias, Spain. Danielle Garcia Granda is a poet both in Asturian and Spanish. His books in Asturian are Poemes del Últime Salvaje, El Remedio, and El Raitán y El Sangrín. And his books published in Spanish are Definición de Biografía, Cómo Desaparecer Completamente, Que se corra la voz, y Un Limón Cae. He also has published children illustrated books both in Asturian and Spanish. Thank you to both of you for being here today with us. And now we are going to move to some singing right now from our student from Case Western Reserve, Olivia Laniak, and she and Yvette Robles have translated the text. So I don't know where is Olivia. No, we don't.
Here.
Oh, you're there. Okay, I can't see you, but please, Olivia, all yours.
I will now be providing a translation for the song that I have just sung. Cantares. You feel closer to me the more I flee from you, for your image is in me, shadow of my thought, shadow of my thought. It returns to me to say, for yesterday you captivated me. I listened to you without hearing, and I saw you without seeing, and I saw you without seeing. And now I have one more song for you. And now I have a translation for that poem as well. Los dos miedos, the two fears. At the start of the evening, she is far from me. Why are you getting so close to me, she says to me. I am afraid of you. And after the night had passed, she said, close to me. Why do you move so far away from me? Why do you move so far away from me? I am afraid without you, without you.
Thank you very much, Olivia. It's been great listening to you. And now, right now, we are gonna go back to Salman Masala. Salman is gonna read a couple of other poems. So, Salman, please go ahead. We are listening to you now.
First, I would like to say something. In my first reading in Arabic, the reading was cut because the last poem was cut. There was another page that was not read in the translation. I hope this time things will be much better. The first poem I will read is Black but Green. שחור אבל ירוק. כדי לכתוב שירים, הבלי אמת, לא צריך ללכת כל כך רחוק, כי שורשי השיר הטוב תמיד נובטים עמוק. ומי שרוצה לשאוב שירים מתוך האדמה, וגם מתנה נאה לתת, צריך לחשוב שחור, אבל ירוק.
And
Black but green.
Oh.
To write poems, vain truths, you haven't all that far to seek, for the roots of the good poem always sprout deep. And he who wants to draw poems out of the ground and also give a seamlessly gift must think black, but green. And the second poem, Abba Gam, Father too. לאבא שלי שנולד במורד ההר והביט על האגם, לא היה דרכון מעולם. ואפילו לא תעודת מעבר. הוא חצה את ההרים כאשר הגבולות לא זרמו בנהר. לאבא שלי לא היה דרכון בעולם, לא מפני שלא הייתה לו ארץ וחותם, רק מפני שהארץ תמיד שכנה לה שם בנחת בכפות ידיו, וכמו שהארץ לא חמקה מידיו אף פעם, ונשאה אל מעבר לים, אבא גם. Father too. My father, who was born in the slope of the mountain and gazed down on the lake, never had a passport or even a laissez-passer. He crossed the mountains when the borders did not flow in the river. My father never had a passport in this world, not because he didn't have a land or a seal, just because the land always dwelt calmly in the palms of his hands. And just as the land never slipped from his hands to travel overseas, Father too. The other poem, Garden. מריסי הזיכרון בניתי גן, ונטעתי בצידו האחד עצי אפרסק וגפנים. ותליתי על ענפי עץ התות אשכולות פעמונים, הם יבשילו לעת קיץ. גם קשרתי חבלים שרוקדים עם הרוח. ילדים שיבואו לשחק מחבואים, יצחקו כציפור בלי שיניים. על גבעת החלום בצידו השני של גני, שוב הסמיק הירח בלחיים, כמו פניה של ילדה שמשכתי אל חיקי. היא חמקה מידיי כשגדלנו, וחמקו ציפורים מן הארץ. גם הגן ששמרתי בין ריסי זיכרוני כבר נשר, כמו מילים שנשרו על נייר. Garden. From the eyelashes of memory, I built a garden, and I planted vines and peach trees on one side, and I hang cluster of bells on the mulberry trees. They will ripen in the summertime. I also tied ropes that dance with the wind. Children who come to play hide and seek will laugh like toothless birds. On the dream hill on the other side of my garden, the moon's cheek blushed like the face of a girl I pulled to my chest. She slipped from my arms when we grew up, and birds slipped away from the land. And the garden I kept between eyelashes of memory also fell away its leaves like words that have fallen onto paper. And the other poem, Sheikh Oblivion. אנשים משונים יושבים בבתי הקפה בשעות הערב. היום כבר פרח לו בזיכרונם, חלף בין אצבעותיהם בלי לדעת מה נותר בסופו, בלי לדעת אהבה. ובתוך הרעש הנשקף בחלון ראווה והשיחות על ועל דה, ובעיקר על העליות במדד של דצמבר, והירידות בשער הזהב, אני עומד בשער השכחה. זה השער הצופה על חדרי השמחה, כי מרוב זיכרון אתה שוכח מי אתה, מי כעור ומי יפה. אתה שוכח מי החי לפניך על חרבו, ומי פוסע אל מותו על שולחן הקפה. ובין לגימה ללגימה אתה עוד תגלה שם בסוף, בתחתית עקורה של צפלון, כי שכחה היא ראשית הזיכרון. Oblivion. Strange people sit in cafes of an evening. The day has already flown from their memories, slipped through their fingers without knowing what remained at its end, without knowing love. And from within the noise reflected in shop window, and the talk of this and that, and especially of the rise of the stocks in December, and the drop in the price of gold, I stand at the gate of oblivion. This is the gate overlooking the chambers of joy, because from so much memory, you forget who you are, who is ugly, and who is beautiful. You forget who lived before you by his sword, and who walks towards his death on the cafe table. There at the end, between sip and sip, you will yet discover in the murky depths of a cup that oblivion is the beginning of memory. And the last poem, כלוב, cage. על כף ידה ציירו האחרים קווים של כלוב, וחלאו בו את קורות חייה. ואני בהיותי בן ערב, שונא ציפור בשבי. בכל פעם שנתנה לי את ידה, מחקתי קו ושחררתי ציפורים. Cage. On the palm of her hand, the others drew the lines of a cage where they imprisoned her life story. And I, son of Arabia that I am, hate an imprisoned bird. Each time she gave me her hand, I erased a line and released birds.
Thank you so much, Salman. Wonderful, wonderful reading. And now we are going to move into Harald Friedel. Harald Friedel, born in 1958, is an Austrian writer, filmmaker, and jazz musician. He has directed and produced numerous award-winning documentary films for cinema and TV, among them África representa, the essayistic fictitious record of actor Sidede Onyuloa's return to his origins and the reality of tradition and modernity in Tanzania, and What Happiness Is, a road movie through Bhutan exploring the kingdom's efforts to measure progress by the degree of gross national happiness. His latest film brought contrast the miracle of traditional bread making with the soulless industrial methods. Harald has published numerous writings and won several literary awards, among them the 2020 Alois Vogel Literature Prize for Unter dem Kontinent. In 2003, he was the Case Western Reserve University Max Kade Artist in Residence and 2012-14 CSU Long Beach Visiting Professor. He has written libretti for 2 jazz operas and numerous lyrics for the Salzburg indie bands Blaumarot and Scheblinskeder, whose guitarist and vocalist Harald has been since the 70s. Harald lives in Vienna. Harald, thank you very much for being here today, and we are going to listen to you now.
Thank you very much, Christian, and thank you for this invitation and to participate in this very special event. And thank you, Jutta, for this excellent translation that you made. I'm reading the beginning of a short story that I wrote about a little boy who split himself up into 2 human beings. One that is, or 2 different mindsets. One that is still located in the parental home, and one that is diving underneath the continent of Africa until he will be grown up one day in order to escape reality. I'm reading in German with a light Austrian accent. Unter dem Kontinent. Eltern ändern sich nicht ihre Kinder wegen. Mutter ließ häufig Dinge liegen, Vater riss Dinge an sich. Mutter wurde ständig von Musik begleitet, Musik aus dem Radio, Musik in ihrem Kopf. Vater neigte zur Ungeduld und hörte ungern zu. Sie war nervös und hatte es immer eilig, er ging gerne aus. Er spielte Karten im Café und tauschte im Verein Briefmarken. Er machte beim Eisstockschießen mit, Mutter beim Kirchenchor. War ich allein zu Hause, hatte ich mit den Spielsachen ausreichend zu tun. Ich baute Häuser aus Legosteinen und übertraf mich im Mikado. War Mutter wieder da, trällerte sie Melodien aus der Kirche oder Schlager, die sie vom Radio kannte. Was sie auch summte und sang, es war nichts Befreiendes daran. Nicht einmal, wenn die Lieder von Romantik und Liebe erzählten. Jutta, are we reading by paragraph or?
Jutta, you are mute.
Yeah, it's a good idea to not wait for the whole thing. Under the continent. Parents don't change on account of their children. Mother tended to leave things lying around. Father grabbed things. Mother was constantly surrounded by music. Music from the radio, music in her head. Father was short on patience and not much of a listener. She was nervous and always in a hurry. He loved to go out. He played cards in the cafe and swapped stamps in his club. He joined the curling team, Mother, the church choir. When I was at home alone, my toys kept me busy. I built Lego houses and outperformed myself at pickup sticks. With Mother back home, there were the church melodies or the pop songs she knew from the radio. Whatever it was that she hummed and warbled, there was nothing freeing about it, not even when the songs were about romance and love.
Sie nahm mich mit auf Spazierwege und zum Einkaufen. Ich hörte ihren kleinen Gesprächen mit fremden Menschen zu. Richtete sie Worte an mich, konnte sie mich einnehmen damit, da ich ihr alles glaubte, obwohl ich nur wenig verstand. So lernte ich selbst immer mehr Wörter sprechen und jedes einzelne von ihnen stand für etwas Wahres, das anzuerkennen war. Deshalb ist auch die Lüge so schwer von der Wahrheit zu unterscheiden, weil beides in denselben Wörtern daherkommt.
She took me along when she went on walks or shopping, and I listened to her chats with strangers. When she addressed me, I was captivated, trusting her completely, even though I didn't understand much. That way, I learned more and more words, and each and every one stood for something that was true and had to be acknowledged. This is why it is so hard to tell a lie from the truth. They both appear as the same words.
Ich hörte Mutter einmal sagen, sie hätte das Reden verlernt neben diesem Mann, meinem Vater. Vielleicht bemühte sie sich deshalb um meine Sprache, damit es so früh wie möglich jemanden in ihrer Seite gäbe, der ihr zuhören konnte. Sie kaufte Bücher und las mir daraus vor. Und weil mich die Geschichten in die Nacht begleiteten und ich noch morgens daran denken musste, was ich aus den Geschichten mit meinen Träumen vermischt hatte, standen in mir immer wieder neue Geschichten auf.
Once I heard Mother say that next to this man, my father, she'd unlearned how to speak. Perhaps the reason she took pains with my talking was so there'd be someone at her side who would listen. She bought books and read them to me, and because the stories followed me into the night and kept me wondering in the mornings what from the stories had mingled with my dreams, new stories kept arising in me.
Ich kam mir klug vor, wenn ich sie erzählte. Aber da um mich herum manches, das verstand ich früh, hätte anders sein sollen, lernte ich Wörter nicht nur benutzen, sondern sie an mich reißen und wie Waffen einzusetzen. Das bekam mir schlecht. Denn sobald ich mich in die Kämpfe der Eltern einmischte, ließen sie mich danach lange allein. Ob aus Zorn auf mich oder aus Scham, konnte ich nicht unterscheiden.
I felt smart when I told them, but since I understood early on that things around me should have been different, I not only learned to use words, but to seize them and wield them as weapons. That didn't go well. As soon as I came between my parents in their fights, they shut me out for long periods. Whether it was because they were angry at me or ashamed, I couldn't tell.
Sobald ich mehrere Sätze aneinander fügen konnte, hörte ich nicht mehr auf zu reden, was Mutter und Vater anfangs beeindruckte, doch bald schon auf die Nerven ging. Wer so viel reden konnte, sollte sich selbst Unterhaltung genug sein, dachten sie wohl. Denn Mutter hörte auf, mir Geschichten vorzulesen und Vater hörte auf, mir Geschichten zu erklären, damit ich nicht noch mehr Gesprächsstoff bekäme. Manchmal blieb nicht unbemerkt, dass mir klamm ums Herz war, da ich scheinbar ohne Grund zu weinen begann. Sodann belehrten und trösteten sie mich, dass die Zeit ganz gewiss alle Wunden heile. Vielleicht dachten sie, so ein Kind verstünde wenig und es vergäße alles.
Once I could cobble a few sentences together, I never stopped talking, which at first impressed Mother and Father, but soon got on their nerves. They probably thought that someone who could talk a blue streak was his own best company. For Mother stopped reading stories to me and Father stopped explaining things to me, so I wouldn't have even more to talk about. At times it was unmissable that my heart was heavy, as I cried for no obvious reason. That's when they admonished and consoled me. Surely time would heal all wounds. Perhaps they thought that a child would understand little and forget it all.
Sie hatten ein gemeinsames Kind und sie hatten ein gemeinsames Haus. Keiner wollte sich davon trennen. Mutter wollte Ehefrau und Mutter bleiben, Vater im Haus. Doch die Kämpfe und Lieblosigkeiten erschöpften sie beide. Sie kannten einander gut genug, um die Temperatur, an der sich ihre Gemüter erhitzten, richtig einzuschätzen. Daher trachteten sie danach, so kühl wie möglich zu sein, damit nur ja kein Funke fliege. Ich erkältete mich oft, gewisse Entzündungen wurden chronisch, ich atmete schwer. Im Spital lernte ich überlegene Ärzte und herzliche Krankenschwestern kennen. Ihre Gespräche über meine Bronchien interessierten mich und ich nahm bereitwillig die Medizin. Ich lernte, dass die Ernte einer Krankheit Fürsorge und Nachsicht ist und so beschloss ich, häufig krank zu werden.
They shared a child and a house, and neither wanted to give it up. Mother wanted to stay a wife and a mother. Father wanted to stay in the house. But the fighting and lack of love exhausted them both. They knew each other well enough to estimate the temperature at which they would blow their cool. So they sought to keep it too chilly for sparks to fly. I had a lot of colds. Certain inflammations turned chronic. I had trouble breathing. At the hospital, I met self-important doctors and warm-hearted nurses. I found their conversations about my bronchia interesting, and I willingly took their medicines. I learned that being sick will make you cared for and indulged. So I decided to get sick a lot.
Als Mutter und Vater nach einer Woche kamen, um mich abzuholen, hieß es, das Kind brauche Luftveränderung. Sie sollten mit mir in die Berge oder ans Meer fahren. Das gefiel mir. Ich wollte ans Meer. Ich übte, bis jedes Husten wie ein Verlangen nach der Küste klang. Doch entweder verstanden sie das Offenkundige nicht oder sie ignorierten es, denn sie sagten zum Arzt, ihr Budget erlaube keine Familienreise. Teilweise lag es wohl an mir, dass ich mein Ziel nicht erreichte. Das Husten war zu wenig überzeugend. Am folgenden Tag wollten sie mich mit nach Hause nehmen, doch das würde ich mir nicht gefallen lassen. Deshalb hielt ich insgeheim einen Teil von mir zurück. Sie sollten mich nie mehr ganz bei sich haben.
When mother and father came to pick me up after a week, there was talk about the child needing a change of air. It was advisable to take me to the mountains or to the seaside. I liked that. I wanted to go to the seaside. I practiced until each cough sounded like a clamoring for the beach. But either the obvious wasn't understood or it was ignored, for they informed the doctor that their budget wouldn't allow a family vacation. It probably was partly my fault that they didn't work out. My coughing wasn't convincing enough. The next day, they were going to take me home. But I wasn't about to let that happen. That's why I squirreled away a part of myself. They would never again have all of me.
Thank you, Harald. Thank you, Yuta, for this short story. And now we are gonna go back to Spain with Paz Garcia and Danielle, who are gonna be reading more of her Paz poems. Paz, please go ahead. Paz, estás en mute.
Entre. Arremangó la nieve hasta el canto. Rutina afuega. Los huellos ciegos despluma sanadora. Silencio blanco. Son pincelares. El corazón palpita de realidad. Quien fuiste, quien yes, que se levante la niebla, nel intre espera. Apicalbando, día, fruta, y sienes, invierno, avisa.
Meantime,
Presente.
snow climbed to the hilltop. Stifling routine. Blind eyes. The healing surf. White silence. They are brush strokes, heartbeats of reality. Who you were, who you are. Wait for the fog to disappear. In the meantime, ripening day fruit and temples. The winter's coming.
Presencia. Bolines pintes. Aquí. Oh, ya floreció. La espinera y yo.
Presence. Blossoms black and white, right here and in bloom. Oh, me and the hawthorn tree.
Pervidinos de esencia, sí, primavera, alegría de youth.
Presence 2. Essence infusions, joys of light, spring at last.
De sópitu, un mensaje. Terezalina, nel telefono frío.
Suddenly, a message. The little cherry tree in the cold screen.
Non vuoi toccate, no? Vuoi bien tostado, margaritina, sí.
Oh no, I will not pluck you. Little fried egg, little daisy. Oh yes.
Candela, poema experiencial 2021. Asel alairón, restacha leiro, pervica agua nella licurni. Axela, foguera, alrededor del carballo, armai una danza. Hermanas, despertai el pandiru. Cantai a la negra, que la quiero ver bailar, saltar y brincar y dar vueltas al aire. Ya vuela, ya siente calor. Soy la fucsia, tierra caliente, arciel, negra feria. Escorruixo el frío que trae el carviso. Torné.
Candela. The strong wind rests. The earth resounds. The water boils in the stag's sacred horn. Bonfire, hush. Around the oak tree, circle up for a dance. Sisters, wake up your tambourines. Sing to your menses. Que la quiero ver bailar, saltar y brincar y dar vueltas al aire. It flies. At last. At last. It feels hot. I am the door. Algiers, a land far and hot. I am the wound. I move to evade the cold that the north wind brings along. For I came back.
Y esto es lo que sucede cuando te prende un poema, que te trae, que te lleva y que te pone un lugar donde no hay marcha atrás. Gracias.
And this is what happens when a poem seizes you. A poem that takes you to and fro and puts you in a place from where there is no comeback. Gracias. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Paz. Muchas gracias, Daniel, por traernos estos poemas desde el asturiano. Y ahora vamos a ir rumbo a Sudamérica, porque, I start in Spanish. we're now moving into South America because we are going to have the video of William Palomino Campos. William is a native from Caquituna, a town in the department of Ayacucho, Peru. He has a Bachelor of Arts in Anthropology from the National University of San Cristobal de Huamanga. His main areas of anthropological research in Quechua language are Cachua ritual, that consists of round dances, songs, and games. In the community of Caquituna, he performs the ritual of Cachua to prepare chicha for every party. In addition, William works in the fields of his community, growing corn, potatoes, mashua, oca, among other traditional crops. At the same time, he's devoted to record the ancestral wisdom from the Andean world for its cultural preservation. So now we are going to have the video.
Por ella soy a cocarpaña, carparella soy coloro chaya, cinta chaya, coloro chaya, cinta chaya. Per pincha, no sin sache, per pincha, poca sin sache, arrayajina, sarta, sarta, cha. Calabazajina, warki warki chay, ay sarilla way chutarilla way, ay sarilla way chutarilla way, y rocadina watu chay manta, alambricha watu chay manta. Waita huerta yachane, yachane, oles huerta yachane, yachane, kalpai venkai tumbis chay, oles kulera chay, oles kulera chay. Picham pokyo, pebiconita chay, sayana ki, chonkai kakayaraja, tauam pokyo, pebiconita, sayana ki, chonkai kakayaraja, saya puraya, pokoyare konsum, vinya puraya, pokoyare konsum, saya puraya, pokoyare konsum, vinya puraya, pokoyare konsum, chay jam chay.
And now,
I'm gonna read the translation.
Go ahead, Fabiana, please.
So this was translated by Francisca Garcia Cobian Richard. Thank you very much, Garcia. Thank you very much, Francisca. Cachua. Let us trot like rolling boulders. Let us run like the rush of a river. My colorful little lace, my colorful little lace. My dear butterfly of yellow flowers, my little butterfly of red flowers, like vines of creeping myrtle, like pumpkins hanging tight. Take me, hold me, from my iron wine, from my wired twine. I live in a farm of flowers, a farm of cabbages is my home. Jumps and skips my little goat. Angry little cabbages, irksome little cabbages. None of those 5 streams, my little vicuña, has been your last stop. And none of these 4 streams, my dear vicuñita, is your last stop. Let us play, all of us who are peers. Let us play, all of us together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fabiana, and thank you very much to William. And we are now gonna have reach everybody's has read, and I'm gonna leave the final words for Professor Damaris Puñales.
Thank you so much, everyone. It has been a wonderful afternoon or evening, depending where are you in the world. I want to thank each one of you, because your readings have been so powerful, so moving, so strong. And I feel honored and proud of being here together with you this afternoon. I want to thank you once again to all the writers, the performers, the students, the professor, the technicians. It has been a great event. I mean, it has been 2 Fridays of enjoyment, of reflection, of poetry reading, and I guess that it has been wonderful. And I do hope that we can keep this tradition, and next year we can do it again, and we can be together again to be reading more of these great texts and poems that you create. Thank you so much, and I hope that you had enjoyed the evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.